Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a monster analysis on Itzanami. It is known that Montezuma is an arrogant and untrusting emperor and that he has a right to be like that. Everyone hates him, everyone but Itzanami, who will do anything necessary to defend her leader. She could pull off that defense because ironically, she is much more powerful than he will ever be. So supposedly, this monster is far mightier, far more powerful than the almighty Montezuma. Let's see if that's true. This is the newest, the latest Earth legendary monster, and so let's jump right into the analysis. Her power is 3322. That is not a high power at all. She's actually on the lower end for Earth legendary monsters, but that doesn't matter because she is not an attacker by any means. So let's move on to her next stat, her life stat. Her life stat is 34,985, which is actually quite high. In the Earth category, this is the 6th highest life stat. It's tied with Olafur, so great life stat there. But then we move on to her speed, and her speed is where she truly shines. 3,586. She's officially the fastest Earth legendary monster in the whole entire game, and she displaced Baba Yaga, who has a base speed of 3,498, which used to be the go-to speed back in the day, but now every single monster that gets released is just incredibly fast, has incredible stats all across the board. This monster doesn't have a great power, but phenomenal life and phenomenal speed. And actually, in terms of every single monster in the whole entire game, when you take into consideration every single legendary monster, Itzanami's speed stat, it's still very high up there. Still the fastest monster to date continues to be Mercurius with 3663 base speed, followed by Cassia with 3630, and then Bell Breath, a recently released fire monster who has 3608, but now is Itzanami that has just 3586 base speed. So an incredibly fast monster. And again, Mercurius, he's an attacker. Cassia is more of the support type. Whereas Balbreath, I actually completely forgot what Balbreath was. I think it was like anti-extra turn monster / anti-control. And as for Itzanami, well, we're going to find out. According to Wiki, this monster is a support, and we're going to see how accurate that is. This monster's trait is immune to stun and bleed. So that's the first of its kind to be immune to bleed and stun. As far as being immune to stun, this really does help out considering she's in the Earth category, and there are so many Earth monsters that can do AoE stun or even Mega Stun. Her relic slots are a mask and an amulet, so you have quite a few things you can take advantage of. With amulet, it's a lot of healing. With mask, it can either be stamina recovery, stamina drain, or a healing mask to recover life, so she can be quite tanky, quite hard to take down. And with that said, let's jump into her skills. The first skill she has, well, her ultimate skill, deals massive damage to an enemy and applies nanovirus and quicksand to all enemies. Alright, so I'm not entirely the biggest fan of the ultimate skill. This is by no means a groundbreaking ultimate. If you were to get this, it wouldn't be game changing. If you were on the verge of losing, you probably would still lose. It deals massive earth damage, which in this case is 65. But again, you don't have a high power, you're not going to be running strength runes, so this might as well be nothing. It's not going to deal that much damage. Now the positive is that it does apply nanovirus and quicksand, which together will take away 25% of the monster's HP. So if you can last for like 4 turns, that's quite significant. And also this isn't an AoE, it is a single target. Well, the effect, the nanovirus and quicksand, that's an AoE. But the single target, that's just a single effect. Or that's just a single target, the 65 damage. But anyhow, nanovirus also blocks positive effects, meaning the enemy isn't going to be able to do some sort of life regen, stamina regen, double damage buff, triple damage buff, anything of the sort. They won't be able to set up some sort of space-time evasion, whatever. So the nanovirus ability, the more and more I play the game, the more and more I'm liking it. The quicksand's also nice for that DOT. But again, the ultimate itself, nothing too great. With that being said, let's jump into skills group 1. Applies reverse healing to all allies and to all enemies. Very interesting. Reverse healing not only for the enemy, but also for your team. This you have to be extremely careful with. I feel like reverse healing is something that is being very underplayed, and I think in the coming meta of Monster Legends, it can prove to be quite significant. What I like about reverse healing is, if I'm not mistaken, this also applies to relics that heal. So for example, one thing you'll often encounter is a healing mask. So maybe a Voltic is running the healing mask. You attack Voltic, you take him below 50% HP, healing mask activates, and he pretty much recovers to full life. Now imagine if you were able to apply reverse healing on that Voltic, and you damage him to 50% of his life, the healing mask activates, and instead of healing him, it actually kills him. So yeah, like reverse healing, very good. Be careful about running this skill because if you apply reverse healing on yourself, keep in mind, you yourself can hold a healing mask and amulets that tend to recover life. So you could end up using that against you. I don't think you probably won't have that much trouble with it because you most likely won't run this skill because you have other skills you want to run from skill group 2 and 3. But this does have, this is spammable, so you'd always have a skill you could potentially use. Anyhow, we also have a 0 cooldown daze skill that's 50% chance to daze, not worth using, and a 50% chance to nanovirus, spammable, not worth using. So with that said, skills group 2, and we have Zell Flock Disease. Deals moderate damage to when enemy applies daze. Spammable daze that won't miss. Well, if the attack lands, it won't miss. The attack itself has a 95% accuracy. We have Fury, removes positive effects from one enemy, applies nanovirus to one enemy. So this is pretty good because if the enemy monster had evasion, if the enemy monster had space time, if they had any sort of positive effect, it'll remove the positive effect, and then for the next 3 turns, they won't be able to apply any more positive effects. This skill deals no damage, so it'll always land, and it is spammable. So you can use this to remove positive effects from whatever enemy monster you need to do. That's pretty good. We also have Gaze of Jovaxtil. I'm gonna butcher the names. Disable trait on one enemy requires cooldown. Also deals no damage, so it'll always land. 2-turn cooldown, and it's just a trait disable. We all know trait disable. The whoever you target, the trait disappears essentially. If it's an artifact monster, their artifact trait is gone. You can now possess the monster, stun the monster, freeze the monster. You can do whatever you want to the monster. Moving on, we have Breath of some crazy name. Deals heavy earth damage to one enemy, applies daze to all enemies. We have ourselves an AoE daze, although it's a single target, single 45 earth-based damage, then AoE daze effect. Not interesting seeing this. I feel like I haven't seen an AoE daze in a long time. We have Charlotte Curse. Charlotte Curse removes positive effects from enemies, applies nanovirus to all enemies, requires cooldown. This is actually pretty good. The removing the positive effects specifically, you guys have probably heard me say multiple times, I love when a skill removes positive effects. 29 stamina cost, 3-turn cooldown. This is especially good if you're having trouble with bases that have an Elvira on defense. We all know Elvira, the War Master, the Light War Master. She starts the game off with evasion. You're like, gosh, what do I do? How do I get rid of it? Well, here's how you get rid of it. You basically do this skill right here. Evasion is gone. You're free to attack the enemy. And you also apply a nanovirus, which again, it blocks the enemy from being able to do buffs on themselves. So for example, one common thing with Elvira is that she has protecting light, which makes it so you can't take any damage from light attacks. So once your evasion runs out, you typically tend to run that skill. If the AI was to do that, that's a smart AI. But now you don't have to worry about that because you remove the evasion and she can't even set up her light protection, her photophobic shield or whatever it's called. So pretty great skill, pretty great skill. And one thing you'll notice a lot about this monster is that a lot of the skills are 0 damage. And what that means is the effect will always land. Because recently they also changed the chance of skills landing from 98% to 100%. So these effects will always land as long as the attack lands. And when a skill has 0 damage, it'll always land. Even though this is 90% accuracy, if I'm not mistaken, if Monster Legends still works the way I remember it working, the skill will always land. So that's awesome. And then the other skill we have is Anger, which deals moderate spell damage to all enemies and disables traits on all enemies. So see, this skill actually has to land. This skill actually does have a 90% accuracy. And if it does land, then it'll apply trait disable. So very cool. Almost like an Ingenica, but not really. Ingenica can fortunately do positive effect removal and then trait disable. Whereas this monster has either an AoE trait disable or an AoE remove positive effects. Overall, I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm not too overly impressed with this monster. Yeah, I see the benefits in it. The trait disable is pretty cool. The AoE trait disable, the remove good effects and nanovirus. It blocks the enemy from having any positive effects for the next 3 turns. That is awesome. If you can block the enemy from positive effects and if you can trait disable, how cool is that? That's pretty cool. You can AoE daze if you want to. You can single trait disable. You can single remove positive effects. You can single daze. I guess you could potentially run the negative healing if you wanted to. But again, overall, I'm not the biggest fan of the monster, or I feel like I personally wouldn't be able to use her, at least in my league. I don't know how, if you had this monster fully ranked up or if she was on par with other monsters, how good is she? Well, again, she does have the trait disable, which is great. Although I kind of feel like Ingenica could pull this off better because it's remove good effects and trait disable. But then the nanovirus remove good effects is quite good. I don't know. Overall, I like the monster, but also I'm not that impressed with the monster because I don't really see that much of a purpose for her. If I run her with team speed, she can boost my main denier, and then when she finally gets a turn in, she can AoE trait disable. But by then, what is one enemy monster alive, two enemy monsters alive? I can remove good effects and nanovirus, so this will be useful if the enemy set up, if they did a space time. So it could work to counter certain things. But I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't really know how I feel about the monster. Skills wise, I think you should definitely run these two, Curse and Anger. And as for your last skills, oh, it's kind of tough. Like, do you want the single target versions of them? You kind of don't need them too much since you have the AoE versions. I guess you could run the single trait disable if you wanted a guaranteed trait disable that wouldn't miss. You could also run, well, all you really have is AoE days, or single remove good effects, which I don't think you need that, even though it is spammable. Yeah, like, why would you need a spammable remove good effects if the AoE one will block them from doing any positive effects for the next 2 turns? So Curse, Anger, Gaze, and you could do the AoE days. Or if you wanted to run the reverse healing and find a way to implement it, you could. But again, just be careful with your own relics and your monsters. If they have healing skills, you kind of want to be careful to not apply reverse healing on yourself. Because I don't think this monster had any remove negative effects from your team, which would be really good, especially for a support monster. Yeah, it's just days, nanovirus. Overall, not overly impressed with the monster, but that's my personal opinion and that's my analysis. Again, you saw the stats, powers, whatever. Life is a good life. Speed is phenomenal. Trade is good enough. Relics potentially good enough. But yeah, that's going to be it for this. If you were to get this monster, I would say this is a team speed holder. Yeah, team speed holder goes at the end and sets up for your deny monster to do something. That's going to be my analysis on Itzanami. Now I want to hear from all of you guys. What do you guys think about this monster? Do you disagree with my analysis? Maybe I missed something. Maybe I missed some potential aspects to here. So whatever thoughts you may have, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much, and I will see you all next time.